I'm not one to go out this time of year anymore. But who can argue with free sweets?
And who is this that is risen from the grave?
Well, I figured there's nothing scarier than being myself, so I'm me. BTB.
I see. Wait 1 second. Here you go. A sugary power-up.
Cool, thanks. Happy Halloween.
Same to you.
Okay, let's see what we got here. Ooh, a large box of Mike and Ike's. A little bag of Skittles. A bar of Twix. A rock. A knife. Altered Beast? And a shit ton of Tootsie Rolls. Altered Beast for the Sega Genesis.
Rise from your grave.
It's the early 80s. Sega is preparing to ditch their 8-bit Master System and introduce their 16-bit Genesis. They were ready to show the general public what it does, but they had a situation in finding a game that showed off what it can do. Remember that Sonic didn't come to fruition until 2 years after the Genesis's release, and they decided against Alex Kidd, even though he had a game ready. So they looked at their arcade games to find a suitable candidate. And they found it in Altered Beast, a beat-em-up that came out in June of '88 that was pretty popular in the US than its native land of Japan. So because of this, they decided to port it and make it the pack-in game for the Genesis in the States. And that is the version we'll be looking at tonight.
This port was released on August 14, 1989, the same day as the Genesis, which I've already said. If you haven't been keeping track, this was the original pack-in game when the Genesis reached US shores, and it was probably the best choice Sega could have made. Not only did it look decent, showing off those 16-bit arcade graphics, but it also could be viewed as dark or edgy as opposed to the kid-friendly stuff you'd find on Nintendo. Genesis did what Nintendo didn't until they smartened up. But that wouldn't come until later, as for now Sega had plenty to prove and it all started here. And you know, it's about time I covered a Genesis game. I've covered games on Sega's other systems on game reviews but this, so let's rectify that now as we take a better look at Altered Beast.
I'm sure some will just be nostalgic for this opening alone.
You may not have had an inkling at the moment, but this was a perfect tone setter.
And with little time to spare, you're thrown into the fray with a brief glimpse of the story to only scroll away as fast as it came. But the premise is Zeus has revived you, a courageous and strong warrior, from the dead to rescue his daughter Athena from the clutches of Neff. This requires fighting off various unnatural enemies of the underworld like zombies and headless horrors among others.
I'm getting their names from the manual. I'm sure they'll make as much sense as those in the original Zelda.
The enemy to look out for is this blue 3-headed wolf. There's brown ones as well, but the blue ones are special, for if you hit it, it'll morph into a spirit ball that you can collect for a power up.
I wish I can get big and buff when I consume something, but that has the opposite effect.
Power up. Like it announces, the spirit orb gives you a slight and visible boost in strength to your attack. Acquire a second and you'll make bodybuilders jealous with the physique you got. Get a third and you'll turn into the name of the game. You become the altered beast, in this level being the werewolf. When you're in this form, you're nearly indestructible, but you can still get hit by any enemy, and that's something to keep in mind when you come face to face with Neff.
Ah, I get it. Social distancing. Lightning's one way to get the point across.
Welcome to your doom.
Now this is a boss fitting of ancient times and a pain in my butt for whatever reason. I used to be pretty good at this guy, but I forgot exactly what to do. I'd usually get close to the point where I could spam the button and shoot him to death, but that didn't work out. The other best strategy I've seen is to charge him at the right time when he isn't flinging projectile devil heads, then he'll disappear the same way he appeared in the first place, then you'll clear the level and get some bonus points, while Neff takes your powers away and flees, only for you to follow suit.
Now that is an image. Don't think we can get away with that these days.
Now we're beneath the surface as we start level 2, and we have a whole slew of new enemies to encounter like round leeches, rattle tails, and chicken stingers? Sounds more like if a scorpion was cooked, but I digress. The formula is the same as it will be throughout the game. Punch and kick all enemies that oppose you and collect the spirit orb so you can transform into the altered beast, this time the were-dragon according to the manual.
Can we just call a spade and a dragon a dragon? You barely see any man left in those scales, and I have wings.
The rest of the level is pretty much a cakewalk. Even the boss is easy as pie, for you just have to spam your laser barrier to make Neff flee with your powers again.
This game sure loves its voice sampling, and power stealing, and images.
I like to think no one goes as far as level 3, cause I don't when I'm playing casually, and I'd say the difficulty starts to ramp up with the new foes of Grave Masters, Rock Turtles, and Cave Needles.
Aw, come on, those yellow ant-looking things with the stinger, those are bee ants. Or ant bees. I don't know, I'll need to consult my uncle.
There's even a small hint of platforming in this, for you'll have to jump up to get across a large gap, but you'll have to stay on your guard as you'll start getting hit and hurt. If any enemy runs into you or lands a blow, you'll lose a certain portion of your health bar. If your health reaches 0, you'll lose a life, lose all your lives, and the game will be over. But if you get farther in this level, the beast you'll be altered into, and this is what it's called, is the werebear.
I don't know if that's the best or worst thing I've heard since Man-Bear-Pig. Definitely better than a werehog.
The boss here as well is tough, and the way to defeat it is more challenging than it sounds. The trick here is to push this moldy snail back to where it'll tilt its head forward, then you do a body spin to get him to turn different colors to signify his draining of health. You will get temporarily stuck in its hitbox, but you will get pushed out, and you'll also have to keep in mind the couple of projectiles it'll shoot out, but you can get rid of them yourself with your bare breath. It's so strong it turns all enemies to stone. I'd consider this the most challenging boss out of them all, as I died a lot trying to figure it out. I'm not sure if it was the most difficult, but it was the longest, and you can't even catch a break at level 4. It sure as hell looks nice, but the goons around here are anything but. They're mostly the same besides 1 or 2 new dudes, but they come in droves in every direction that it can be a little much, so much so that you might miss one of the 3-headed wolves that holds the spirit orbs. If you do make it to Neff without turning into the altered beast, he'll run off like a coward and you'll have more level to go through so you can be efficiently powered enough to face him. The level does get more challenging this way, but once you get the 3rd spirit orb, you'll be in good shape to fight as a were-tiger.
They really gotta stop with this shit. Whoa, look at that! I shoot orbs! And a vertical charge? What?
The boss here is simple enough where you just have to hit his lava belly and avoid his few attacks, which include little dragon buddies that can target you on the ground. It shouldn't be too hard, and with all 4 levels out of the way, we head down once more to the 5th and final level. It's still a pain in the ass to get through with the presence of gory goats and dark unicorns that know how to land a blow on you, but you just have to stick to the path and get through all the foes and get those spirit orbs, rinse and repeat everything you've done with fresh and familiar enemies.
The last 4 levels were preparing you for this moment that may be rewarding, depending on your viewpoint.
The last altered beast is actually a repeat of the wolf with a slightly different color shading, and Neff's final boss fight comes in the form of a combative rhino. He somewhat has a pattern to his punches and kicks, but it'll take a bit to figure it out, and when you defeat him, a blue bird will fly onto the scene, which turns out to be Athena. Now all those images between levels turn out to make sense, and we get one more which looks like potential bestiality.
But before we think on that any farther, the credits roll as this quest has come to an end. No nukes, I don't know what a coordinate is, but that name is on par with Fred Fucks.
So that's how you play, and like I said, you can take the ending however you want, if it was worth it or not. But in my eyes, it was fine, as was most of this game. Oftentimes I had a good time, not too terribly hard, but provided a decent challenge as you went farther, but kept things simple while ramping up the challenge like any arcade or game in general should. Though the difficulty, scenery, and enemies change, not much else does. Combat remains primarily the same, which can be a little dull after a while, but having you alter into a beast to get different abilities will keep you going on till you drop dead again. And I should say the game doesn't end there, for it'll just continue from the beginning with more, harder foes to give you even more of a challenge.
That trope would continue on in stuff like X-Men, but at least Altered Beast got their voice sampling right as opposed to Magneto.
I'm assuming the music for this port was composed by whoever Now is. Either that or he only did the sound effects, or even both. Either way, he pretty much recomposed a classic. It's limited, sure, but all the tracks fit in perfectly to the situation you find yourself in. The level tunes are dark or foreboding, and when you turn into the Altered Beast, it turns up the intensity, though sounding more upbeat, making it sound like you have a chance, but then you get to the boss, and you might second guess your chances. I would argue the first level music is the most iconic tune on here, and should be up there with the upper echelon of the best first level tunes.
Maybe not on the same A tier as Super Mario or Sonic's Green Hill Zone, but maybe on the B tier with Intelligent Cube and Doom. You can fight me in the comments if you want.
Since this is a port of the arcade, there isn't much else that was added to it, but I think there's a few small things to point out real quick. You might have wondered who Stella refers to on the gravestone. It's actually an obscure cameo of the character Stella from Alex Kidd The Lost Stars. In the arcade version of Altered Beast, there's a smaller gravestone with Alex's name on it, so the reference comes full circle there, and there's a small nod to Shinobi, as most who worked on the game worked on the hack and slasher as well. You can also have a second player play along with you, which I imagine makes the game a little easier, but I didn't really think about this game being 2-player. It never crossed my mind.
I didn't know about it either. When did you get in here? You never look up when you're doing your monologue. Besides, I have some research to do on the computer. Over my dead body you do. That can be arranged. When did he ever get a pistol?
The Genesis version of Altered Beast was received very positively from some critics. A couple also criticized the port, but their opinions have been overshadowed by higher praise and nostalgia. It was also ported to a couple other systems and computers during its heyday, including Nintendo's Famicom. Sega on Nintendo wasn't something you saw every day, and it was ported by Asmik. What? It wouldn't be long before a certain Blue Blur came onto the scene and soon took the world by speed, replacing Altered Beast as the pack-in title, and you might say the game suffered the same fate as Rob in a sense that it got them started, but was left in the dust once it really took off. Since then, it's become somewhat of a classic, being re-released in several compilation games or Genesis all-in-one systems, or by itself on digital stores, and believe it or not, it did get 2 sequels, one on the Game Boy Advance, and the other only for Japan and European PS2 owners. The game has also found its way into other forms of pop culture, proving it's still memorable and popular to go back to.
So, what is my rate to play? Truth be told, this originally was going to be episode 6 of Game Reviews before I was lucky enough to acquire Chippendale Rescue Rangers 2. Now I've finally gotten back around to it, and was it worth the wait? In some ways, yeah.
There was no question Sega chose the right game to represent what the Genesis could do when it debuted. It was different, it was powerful, and it had an edge that wasn't seen on other games at the time. It's also a simple yet tough game once you get far enough, keeping the challenge high as you continue on the quest, but it does have a limit to how long it can keep you on the couch. It isn't the best game, there's a reason it was replaced by Sonic as the pack-in game, but it's still fun to enjoy in small amounts. The original developer, Makoto Uchida, has expressed surprise about the game's sustained popularity, saying that it proved to him if the game is good, people will still pay good money to play it. He can rest assured that the port of his game will always find a home on the shelf of any Genesis collector.
To conclude, I give this game a play rate of... gotta play. Well, that was a nice All Hallows Eve, but I'm actually glad it's over.
It has only just begun!
Oh God, why does this always happen to me? Alright, who are you?
You're doom!
What a bunch of nerds.
But that's only my opinion. If you have your own thoughts, leave a comment. If you like what you see, leave a like. If you think others would enjoy this, share it around the web. And if you want to see more, subscribe. Anyway, this has been BrianTheBlue Game Reviews, Altered Beast for the Genesis. Brian here, want to quickly say thanks for watching this game review, as this and other content wouldn't be possible without you. I appreciate anyone and everyone who watches my videos from all across the world, but it alarms me that over 80% of viewers aren't subscribed to the channel. So I'd like to reiterate and ask you to subscribe as well as ringing the bell to stay notified. That way you can stay up to date with future content that'll appear on the Jacobians channel. Presently I put out new quick views and current calamities every month, and my brother Alex has a brand new show all about wrestling games called WrestleBound. You might want to stick around as we're only getting started. You can also find me on a couple of other channels. I run the Starfighters Arcade channel, where we take a look at the history of our machines on the floor as well as show you our new arrivals, and on Millennial X, where me, arcade buddies, and family get into shenanigans playing, hunting, and reviewing games. If you want to explore more content, these would be the first places to go. That's all the time I got, but be sure to click the icon now if you want to watch the previous or upcoming episodes of Game Reviews.
Sonic Labyrinth.